to do these annual TransVoiceLessons Christmas streams, and they would often be like 7 hours, but last year was the first year I didn't do those. So I was thinking I wanted to change that. Last year was really hard. I couldn't do it because I was kind of injured. I was injured. Just when you thought she was gone, she returned. It's good to know that people even know I exist still. It's been a pretty hard last year or so, but I'm feeling a lot better. I got injured in July last year, or June. Pretty much been in physical therapy for about a year, and now I'm like a lot healthier and I feel a lot better. So that's kind of why I thought I'd try to stream today. I don't really have anything planned. I don't really have anything, to do. Maybe we'll do some fun stuff, but I just told myself when I woke up this morning that if it was the last thing I would do today, I will go live. And unfortunately, there's only about 12 minutes left of Christmas on the West Coast for me. But I'll be able to go to bed tonight feeling okay that I at least accomplished that goal. Had a really nice Christmas though. Went with my loved ones and family. Met some new people and exchanged gifts. I got this really, really cute scarf from my partner's family. It was very, very generous. It's kind of adorable. Technically, maybe I'll show it later, but I hope everyone has been okay. I haven't made a video in almost 400 days, I think. 500 days maybe. It's been a while since I looked. But I've been thinking about it, and I have a lot of intentions to do that, but for the last year I haven't been able to use the computer as much as I would have liked to edit. Using the mouse, sitting at the computer, not so comfortable for me, but at this point I can do it a lot more. I'm not sure if that's going to turn into a video. I don't want to really promise something I end up not doing. I'm pretty good at doing that, not following through on things, but I'm trying to get better at it. It's been a long road. I feel like I'm the best I've ever been at piano, which is cool. I feel like I'm the best I've ever been at teaching voice, which is cool. I feel I'm the most well, I kind of went down a lot of rabbit holes. I spent 3 years ago, I went down a huge philosophical rabbit hole, and my library became very filled with philosophy that I was interested in. And then after that, I kind of got obsessed with the philosophy of mathematics. And then I spent the last 18 months studying mathematics. I don't know why. It doesn't do anything for me. It's not really productive or useful for me. But it's been good to learn nonetheless. And I'm involved in this voice research process right now. In fact, I think tomorrow is our first meeting. We're trying to taxonify the vocal voice teaching training thing, so that we can do some empirical research to try to up the standards of care and the quality levels for trans voice stuff in general. It's a big team involved in that, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it. I'm not the one who's been organizing a lot of it. There's been some really awesome people who've been working on the IRB or the approvals for all the research and stuff like that. I think over the last 2 years I've come to understand what my strengths and weaknesses are. And my weaknesses are organization. My weaknesses are administration. My weaknesses are bringing people together and keeping them together, And I think I've always been a loner. I've always been sort of solo and on my own. And I'm starting to see how those weaknesses, being trans is hard. That's interesting. I wasn't even referring to that, but yeah, let's talk about that. I feel like I haven't made a video in 500 days, and there's almost this weird pressure because I really want to make videos, but I also feel there's this weird thing about being apparently an out trans person on the internet. When I started this YouTube channel, at most I thought maybe a couple hundred people would see it, you know, in 2017 or whenever the hell it started, 2018 maybe. And then it blew up into this thing. And I don't think I ever was okay with actually being a publicly out trans person, you know? So that kind of weighs on me a lot, because my channel got to the size where random people in my tiny little hometown in Indiana knew about it, right? And like this is a very personal thing to talk about, to do, to share, to think about out in public. And I don't think I don't know. I'm learning to cope with it, but it also makes it harder because, you know, America has done this weird, like totally inorganic shift on trans people where it's strange, because when I first started my transition nearly a decade ago, sure, people were transphobic. Okay, right. But it was the kind of naive transphobia, you know, it's like they don't understand it, so they think it's kind of weird, or, you know, they saw Jerry Springer where there was a trans person and there were jokes about that or whatever. Like, it was something organic that maybe they didn't understand. And now it's like transphobia is like institutionalized, and it is like intentionally astroturfed, and there's people who are pouring like hundreds of millions of dollars a year so that people dislike trans people more. That's pretty weird, don't you think? And I think that has been weighing on me pretty heavily, especially around like what I do on this channel. And weaponized. It's really quite bizarre, honestly. I'm not really sure how to process it right, because it's like, at most, people weren't actively malicious towards that in the past, right? It was just ignorance. And now there's like active maliciousness and so on. I've seen so many of my friends get like bullied off the internet now, right? Whether that's like Twitter or different platforms. And I feel like for a long time I had that like strength to like, oh, ignore the haters and like go on. But, and I think I'm getting more of that strength again, but I think I became really tired for it. But then it's weird because I log on and I look at the comments that still come into this channel despite doing basically nothing on this channel for years, or not for years, but for about a year and a half. And it's just positivity, which is kind of jarring. Like in my real life, no one even knows no one thinks about that. It's not even a part of my world, right? And then I go online and it's like the only thing that like people want to talk about is like trans people. And like I saw like Trump posted a Merry Christmas and he's like, luckily we don't have transgender forever. Like, if you would have ever told me that the president of America is like thinking about trans people and tweeting about us like regularly or something, I wouldn't have believed you. But that's, I guess, where we're at. So it's pretty weird. I had to delete my Twitter and uninstall Discord. Yeah, that's another thing, is I feel like I used to sit on Discord a lot and socialize with people and hear more from people in the community and stuff. And something happened in 2020 where the Discord community I had built kind of fractured, and I felt sort of hurt by that, and it kind of made me put a lot less of myself out there for, you know, random people that I was interacting with online and stuff. And I feel like I'm starting to build a barrier, or I'm starting to build a better separation of, you know, the me inside and the me online that people know or whatever. Like, you know, at one point it sort of felt like the boundary between my self-identity and my persona had melted away, and I kind of lost parts of myself in that process. And I've spent the last 2 or 3 years really trying to get back to my passions, you know, so that it doesn't feel like I'm doing it because of YouTube, or I'm doing it because I need to make this next video, but rather like I started doing this because I really love this stuff. I love teaching it. I love thinking about it. I love trying to understand it. I love trying to explore more and figure out more of how it can be optimized, and the learning process, and the philosophy of education, and the philosophy of perception as it relates to someone being able to have the confidence in their own self to take actions and learn from those actions. And the whole like content thing almost became like a distraction from that core thing. But I think I'm starting to develop the psychic defenses to go back to it and put more of myself into it again, and remember like how to create that boundary and barrier so that I'm able to have, you know, my private life and my personal life. And then I'm also able to create and share my ideas. I became really fearful of sharing my ideas, whether it was my music or my theories or, you know, my ideas on stuff for some reason or another. And, you know, I've been in therapy for that for about a year now. And I think I'm starting to work through it, but I don't really think therapy helped that much. I think that taking time away from things has helped, because it's helped me remember why I started those things in the first place. You know, it's easy to forget that when you're so inundated with the stuff, right? Hello from Canada. I'm intersex and trans. It's great to have you here. Don't worry about it. Just know that there are people who are talking bad and good things. Is what you'll always find out. True. Hi, I'm Nicole Z. Thanks a lot for everything. I practice every day and you help me a lot. You're a lovely girl, and big hugs from Argentina. That really means a lot. I'm glad I've been able to help you. That's another thing that's weird about this. I guess I don't even really think of it as like a job, but like this stuff that I do. It's like I don't get to see like all the people that I help through this platform or have helped. You know what I mean? It's like a totally one-sided interaction, and it's easy to fixate on the negative interactions that I've had over different periods of time. So I've really been trying to meditate on what I'm grateful for. And I have a lot to be grateful for. So, I mean, all of you here, I haven't done anything on this channel in so long, and I'm surprised there's even people here. That feels pretty good, you know. I think I became afraid of being vulnerable on the internet because it feels like the climate of the world across the world seems to be getting more hostile or more aggressive or more violent. And I've never been a violent person. I've never really been a hostile person. So it kind of feels like the world is moving in a way that I don't feel like I fit into as much as I did before, you know, and that might just be my own perceptions. Maybe it's just I'm latched onto the negative things I see, you know. I need to quit scrolling X, which is basically like a giant hate box for trans people. But I think there's a grain of truth in that too, though. It's been interesting to try to decouple that. Made some cool friends, met some cool musicians, made some cool sounds. Really grateful for that. Really grateful for the family and friends and loved ones that I've managed to build. I've been in Los Angeles now for 3 years, and I'm not sure. Do you have a mechanism that angles your mic? No, I'm just wiggling back and forth. Is it following me? No. The cord's between my legs, so when I like wiggle back and forth, like the microphone's like wiggling. I see it actually looks like that, doesn't it? That's pretty bizarre, actually. Good, interesting comment there. I feel it too. You're not imagining it. Yeah, it's weird. I thought that the world would be more loving as it matured, you know, not more hateful. I'm going to be honest. I'm so scared every day. You're a lovely person and you don't deserve what you're going through after helping so many people. The world's so unfair. Well, you know, it's weird. I don't think I'm going through anything too bad. It just feels almost more like there's an existential angst, you know, and I don't think I'm the only one feeling that. It seems like there is some angst that seems to be creeping in for everyone since COVID. And, you know, I definitely have had a hard time getting my wheels to grab traction and move forward, because it kind of feels like there's this narrative I have inside where like this channel and what I was doing really blew up in 2020, in the middle of 2020 during the summer. And then immediately at the height of all of that, I felt ill with some unknown disease, and I was ill and like bedridden and like incapable of almost doing anything for 9 months. And, you know, I ended up learning it's called celiac disease. I'm sure you all know what that is maybe, but I have to live gluten-free. And that was a surprise. But for 9 months, like I sort of had this run that I was on, and I was making more and more and doing more and more and organizing more and more, and things were working out. And then I felt ill, and I just didn't, I don't know. For some reason, I've been very bitter about that. And it's very hard for me to talk about this. You know, I've actually thought for a long time, like, what do I want to break the silence with, right? Like, do I want to make the big 2-hour trans voice special video where I like have the Bible of trans voice material, and there's that appeal, and I really want to do that. But it also feels like there's been so much that's happened for me personally that I kind of just want to be open and vulnerable and honest, because it feels like that's kind of what the world needs more right now, is like people being honest about, what they're going through and how it feels to be. So I guess that's what this is. I was like on the fence about streaming. I woke up this morning, I was like, I need to stream, but then like my partner's family were like, our Christmas stuff's gonna start early at 4:30, and I was super stressed about that, so I didn't stream earlier. I just got back a little bit ago, and I saw it was 11 o'clock, and I was like, why don't I just go live and maybe try to just talk about how things are, how you are, how everything is. I don't know, and I'm glad that I did that. It feels a lot better than not doing that, that's for sure. I've been going back and revisiting things that I loved when I was a child and when I was a teenager, and it feels like I'm getting back connected to the things that I always loved or were inspired by. There's this video game. This is kind of trivial almost, it's not as important as all the other stuff, but there's this video game that I've played my whole life, and I'm like one of the best in the world at it, called Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. And I spent a long time this year going back to that once I got the ability to sit down and use my hands comfortably again, because last year, like in June of 2024, my hands went offline. I had nerve issues and tendinitis issues throughout my hands, and it's been a long recovery, but I'm super happy to say that my hands are in better shape than ever. My piano playing is literally better than ever. I've like spent a long time working with a metronome, grinding out technical things that I haven't been able to do ever. I feel like I can read better. I can follow. Like musically, I'm feeling like I've been maturing a lot. But during that time where my hands were kind of offline, I kind of lost my mind, honestly. It felt like all the things that I loved got taken from me, like my music, and even teaching was hard. Like sitting in front of the computer with my students is difficult to do that. Kind of went manic. Kind of had some weird delusions at one point. While I was studying math, I think math invites itself for delusion, which now, by the way, I know a good bit of math now. I mean, I'm no expert, but I just recently proved some interesting lemma that narrows the search space for the Erdo problem number 699. It makes it computationally tractable, which is pretty cool. I proved some interesting facts about arithmetic invariance and the Fairy series of order n. And if you take the finest common period, I'm not going to define it all here. It's kind of geeky shit, but I've really been enjoying math. It's been a thing I could do when my body wasn't working. And I used to hate math. So I'm trying to dive right into my weaknesses and get better at those. And in that process, some of the work that I was doing in TransVoiceLessons stuff, specifically like with vowel scaling, because I think that's really the unique insight that I've had for transvoice work, other than the practical experience and so on, is the sort of the shape of vowel scaling, and not just that, but the actual qualitative pattern and targets. And it's been interesting because with some collaboration of a friend of mine, Erica, we managed to formalize a nice little math function that essentially projects and describes vowel scaling across gender that preserves, or across sex lines that preserves vowel identity. And I started looking through and doing a sort of meta-analysis of vowel format data that exists in the world across different languages. And I found that there's a lot of empirical weight to this vowel scaling model that I've been intuitively teaching my students for a long time, but also do have a formal description of. And so I've been kind of working on a paper for that, and thinking a lot about that. It's really something that's been on my mind. It might be the next video that pops out on TransVoiceLessons channel, because it's been something that, well, the inspiration came back when I was, it's been great. Take care, Ochiba. Thanks for coming, by the way. You have a lot to give the world. Well, I appreciate that. I think I was sort of bitter for a while, and I didn't want to give anything to the world anymore, but have nothing to really be bitter for, I guess. It's just sometimes mental health is difficult. I'm an inspiration for you. Thank you. I appreciate that. People being honest in the current year, I know, radical. It feels like the internet is just like devolved into rage bait. Does anyone else feel like that? Like, it feels like literally almost everything on the internet is just like trying to get a rise out of you. It could be on whatever team you're on or whatever topic it is. It just feels like it's all just like, will it elicit like a nervous system reaction from you to bait you in? And very strange. But I'm on medical leave now, living in Portland, but home for Christmas for a few days. Well, I hope that your medical leave goes well and that you find your way recovering in a beautiful fashion. I think that I'm a big believer now in the importance of your, I guess, I don't know how to say it right, but creating space for your body to heal mentally as well. You know, like trust your body to heal is what I'm trying to say. I feel like intellectually, it can be hard to feel like, you know, things are going to get better when you're injured or ill. And the body is incredibly resilient. And I think that if the mind is giving love to that process, it actually somehow makes an effect. I don't know why or how. That's not my wheelhouse, but it certainly seems to make a big difference. They call it, there's something I was working on a lot, pain retrainment therapy. Basically, if someone's been injured, like they have this like fear of moving the way that injured them, you know, or like they brace, which by the way is very relevant to voice feminization, because a lot of students when they're getting started brace. They feel like to change the voice has to be this difficult act, and so they hold on a lot of this difficulty. They try to vocalize, and there's this extra tension, and so I don't know, something there, but you seem so perfect. I wish I had any part of my life figured out. I'm definitely not perfect. I'm definitely human, and I've let a lot of people down, and I struggle daily with things. I mean, I didn't grow up in the greatest of households, so I feel like I'm still working through the echoes of childhood trauma, and you know, again, I'm being very vulnerable about all that, but I'm old enough now to realize that it actually made an impact on me. And I think for a long time I just ignored it. But like growing up and seeing like well-adjusted families and like people who had more privilege than me and stuff, it's really been hard because I've realized like how much I missed out on when I was younger. And so, yeah, actually, you know, it's interesting. I'm about to cry just thinking about it. Again, vulnerability. That's maybe the new thing I'll try to work on. But it's interesting because I feel like, well, I forgot what I was going to say. It's something I feel like my mind just like blocked that one out for some reason. But it's tough sometimes. Everyone's constantly looking for reasons to disavow one another. Yeah, it's very weird. There's like, I can be an individual and I can also be friends with an individual and not agree with them on everything, you know? It's like a radical idea, I know, but I think I remember what I was going to say. It was something about, oh, I do remember now. I started these Christmas streams, which again, last year was the only year I haven't done one since I think 2019 or something, because I was injured then and I just couldn't, I almost felt like too afraid to explain to people that I was injured, because I always have felt so, I don't know, invincible, or, you know, I was always on top of the world, and I got humbled by the universe big time last year, and I just don't think I wanted to show weakness publicly. So, but that's why I made these Christmas streams originally, is that there were people like me who didn't really have somewhere to go on Christmas. You know, I mean, I have a family that I'm close with, but at the same time, I was like separated by distance geographically, and these were always a place where people can join the stream if they don't have someone around them for Christmas, you know. And that's why in the past I would do them for 7-8 hours. I think one year we did like a 9-hour Christmas stream. It was always just a place for people like me to go who didn't necessarily have another place to go. So I really wanted to try to do that again this year, and try to just say, hey, you know, I haven't given up on that, even though last year I wasn't here. So I'm not going to do a 7-hour stream tonight. I mean, I might not even do a full hour, right? But I just told myself I needed to be here at least a little bit. And fortunately, there was some time left before Christmas on the West Coast ended. Hatred is the easy way out. That's very true. Very true. Yeah, everything's trying to troll you. That's such a good way to put it, right? Like back then in the internet, like 2007, 2008, 2010, trolling was like something people were metacognitively aware of. Like don't feed the trolls, right? That was like literally like a thing you don't do. Like, oh, that's bait. I'm not taking that bait. And now it's like the internet has had such mass adoption that it feels like the broader population didn't have like psychic defenses for these kinds of mimetic like interactions. You know what I mean? It kind of feels like a bunch of normies got one shot by like online culture, and now the whole world is like 4chan, which is it's genuinely one of the strangest phenomena that I've ever seen, or even could have dreamed of, you know? It's like, it's actually what happened. It's very weird. Like they didn't have the psychic defenses to realize like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I first found 4chan when I was like, I don't know, like 14 in like 2004 or 2005 or something, you know? And like, there's still people who don't even know what that site is. And like, yet the language they use is like a leaked version of that doesn't have the context of that place. It's so bizarre to me. It's one of the, truly, I think that historians are going to look back on this period and like, they're going to have a field day. One of my close friends, Mariana Colleen, she has a great YouTube channel. You should check it out. The Morbid Zoo. She's like a film scholar and she reviews horror stuff, but, and analyzes horror films. But, she's like one of my best friends, and she's pretty sold that like internet historian is going to be like a real scholar, like a real scholarly position, like, 20 years from now, like, because there's got to be someone yeah, you should sub to her. She's great. There's got to be someone who's able to like, go over that and chart it out and dissect this process, because the way it's like, there used to always be a gap between online and real life, right? Like people would be like, oh, IRL, I do blah, blah, blah. And then like they'd be online. And now it's like the boundary between IRL and like real life, IRL and online life is like dissolved. And it's like, it reminds me of like the Upside Down from like Stranger Things. It's like a portal to hell is open, and now like internet brain rot is just everywhere, including like our president, who has like brain rot from, it's weird though, because the president has like third stream brain rot, right? He's not even using the platforms. He's like listening to like the third derivative of like some person like shit posted, that got reposted. Some person took that shit post seriously. Then that person shit posted about it. And then that goes across like the most powerful person in the world's desk. And they're like, that's it. That's the tweet. It's so fucking crazy. Like, so at least your little hiatus can break you free of the pursuit of the algorithm. I totally agree. I feel that way. Like, it really felt like I got swept up in it. And it's like, I don't know, because there's almost this thing that's like, oh, I'm going to work really hard to make this thing. And so if I'm going to work really hard, I might as well try to do what I can to make it pop, right? The best it can. And then you become on this like rat race of like, how do I min-max optimize the thing so that my time is like returning the most views or the most watch time or whatever. And it's like, I never thought about any of that when I started. Again, I thought this channel was going to be seen by like 100 people maximum, and I really don't think I mentioned this whole psychic defense thing. Like, I didn't have the psychic defenses starting all this stuff to like guard it properly. It's been something I've developed. I think I'm getting better at developing it. But it's it's pretty toxic. It can be, at least. I appreciate you taking your time to stream and talk to us. Well, thanks for being here. Christmas only ends when you sleep. True. Oh my God, 72 or not. Yes, I already read that one. When you get to that dog shit, just start a new account, right? It all started during and after I agree. COVID like was an acceleration on like the merger between online, because I think it's so weird. Does anybody remember? I mean, I'm probably older than some of you. I'm an old fossil at this point. Okay. So if it sounds like I'm all wise and mature, it's because I'm pretty old, but, maybe not pretty old, but I'm getting there. I feel like there was always this notion of, containment for the internet, and that just has been breached. It kind of feels like you were kind of considered either a nerd or like a loser or a no-life if you sat on your computer all day, right? And I did that. So, I mean, I was all of those things. But now it's like during COVID when no one could go do anything, then everyone sat on their computer all day. And this notion of like, again, the people who didn't sit on their computer all day for years, suddenly sitting on the computer all day, they got their like brains like melted, a total algorithmic melting. And also, they didn't develop the like psychic defenses of sitting on the internet all day before all the algorithmic stuff happened, right? Like back when it was like organic traffic and you would literally have to type in a URL, like what you wanted to go to, like stickdeath.com in like 2001. Does anybody remember that? Yeah. So it's pretty weird stuff. I kind of feel like an internet grandma now in some sense. Like I've watched it all. I was that kind of outcast kid, you know, in the early 2000s that was nerdy, and I was just always on the computer. I started playing StarCraft Brood War in 1999. I still play Brood War. I play Brood War once a week at least. And, you know, it's just like, I got bullied all throughout school for using computer all the time, you know, and playing video games. I used to be a sponsored Halo 2 player, and I got relentlessly bullied about that when I was in high school and middle school. And now it's like those people who bullied me, like, what do? They work their job and they go home, smoke weed, and play video games. It's so bizarre to me. I can't. It's like you will live long enough to watch your sacred, treasured passions become absolutely pimped out by capital. Or I'm not an anti-capitalist necessarily, but that's what happens. They get pimped out for, you know, the gains and very weird shit. Now I'm just like ranting, but yeah. When I try to explain let me go up a little more. I just wanted to say, as a trans woman that gave up on dreams of becoming a musician due to largely the hatred of my voice, you're such a huge inspiration. Thanks for everything. Definitely don't give up. And I'm super glad that I can inspire you in some sense. Thanks for that comment. When I try to explain the rapid adoption of the internet as the issue, people get really defensive. Yeah, I can't get anywhere with terminally online normal people. I agree. And it's like, ironically, they were the late adopters of the internet, and like they're the ones who have like shit it up, if that makes sense, you know? I pine for the days of the old internet where it was like really about like there was like this freedom of expression, and everything wasn't about optimizing for a view or a click, you know, or like I want to be famous, I want to be a celebrity, I want to not be poor, right? Because now it's like a lot of stuff on the internet is like people like, I don't want to be poor, and the internet's a global market, so let me try to go. Right? And I mean, I don't blame those people. That's what's so weird when like X added the like ability to look at where accounts are at, and you see like all these people from different countries who are pretending to be Americans, who are giving rage bait to Americans for money. It's like, hello, are we gonna do anything about this? Like, that can't be healthy. It can't be a healthy system. It's very strange. But I mean, you can't fault them, right? Because it's about, they're looking for safety and security, and they're trying to take care of their family. And it's like just this weird machinations of the system. No one comes ready for that. Yeah, I don't like my voice, but I can't bring myself to voice train. Understandable. Maybe I'll try to make something on that. I don't know. I end up going and doing a Fred Durst bit or trying to sing both parts of the Emptiness Machine, with my only guidance being Heat from Fire. Aw, that's a throwback. The internet got accessible to everyone, but back in the days it was indeed very isolated, something not for everyone. Agreed. Like, you kind of had to have some degree of specialist intent to get on the internet and get value from it back then, you know? Like, even just knowing cool websites, they were like word of mouth, right? There wasn't like a aggregate search index that I remember Yahoo, but who really asked Yahoo, right? Or asked Jeeves, sorry. But who really Yahooed it, right? It was like, Google came out in what, 2004 it feels like, 2006 maybe, 7 feels like, I'm not sure, but somewhere around there. Honestly, since I started blocking everyone who is annoying or constantly posting things I didn't want to see, my feed has gotten very pleasant. I'll try that. But part of me feels almost like, okay, I have this weird thing. Maybe you can dispel this from me, and maybe by purging it and dispelling it from me, I'll be better off. But I sort of have this feeling that's like, I need to see that stuff because I need to know what the current propaganda is, right? It almost feels like, as a researcher, I want to know what the next talking point is, but I don't think it's healthy, right? Because I don't think that I can actually emotionally like segregate that, you know? I can't take in all of that like shit and actually then like in honesty be like, oh, it doesn't affect me at all. Like it clearly affects me. It changes how I think about things. And I think you're right. It would be better if I was just like, well, you're stupid as hell, block, you know, and then keep moving on. But there's something about it that almost feels like if I just pretend it's not there, I'm almost like less filled in about like the zeitgeist. And there's something about that I'm having a hard time doing, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. I'm too old. I stayed up till 6 a.m. playing EverQuest when I was 6. Let's fucking go, EverQuest. I remember that one. Do you remember when people had that, there was like that EverQuest fear? Like there's always been those like moral panics. Like there was like the satanic panic, the Dungeons and Dragons panic, the video game panic, the GTA panic, right? In like 2000s or whatever. There was the EverQuest panic too. Remember? Because like I think like 60 Minutes or CBS ran like a story in like 2003 on EverQuest addiction. And then suddenly it was like every parent's like, oh my God, these video games, these RPGs, these MMOs, you know, it's like so weird. That's another example where like something breaks containment and like people don't have the context to actually understand it. And so you get these weird interpretations and these weird sort of distortions of something. And now we've got a pirate 60 Minutes from abroad. Holy shit. True. Hi, Ziana. I didn't know you streamed. Nice to see you here. I used to stream a lot more, but then I became sort of like, I don't know. I feel like I kind of silenced myself for a long time. So maybe you'll see more of me. I mean, this was my goal. My goal waking up this morning was to at least stream for a little bit, because then that will help me dissolve this like barrier of silence. Because it feels for me like if it's been, let's say, this much time of silence, it feels like I have to make this much more noise, if that makes sense. Like I feel this pressure to be like, I haven't made something in like 2 years. I need to make the best thing I've ever made then in order to return. And that's not very healthy, because it constantly means that the longer I go without doing something, the bigger the barrier of like me pressing publish is. And I don't think that's healthy, because instead it needs to be like, I'll just make what I'm interested in, publish it and move on, right? Instead of like trying to make up for all the time that I wasn't doing it, right? So thank you for doing a stream this year, even though the vibes are a bit insane. Facts. Because it's very hard on purpose. It's designed to be addictive, to make everyone... You're right. And I actually feel that. Like, there's a part of me, like, when I want to block those, and then I'm concerned about, oh, I want to, you know, not be missing out on that. Like, I agree. I think about that. I'm like, isn't that just because you're, like, addicted to it? Like, isn't it, like, literally addictive? I think you're right. Very strange. I'm guessing part of the struggle is hoping we can interact with those inside who disapprove of us and stand our ground without being maligned. Yeah, that's a thing that weighs on me heavily. Like, I grew up in a really small town, and I would like to think I'm a very moral person. I've always tried to do my best to be kind to everyone and to put the best thing out in the world. And that was seen by all the people I grew up with, like, you know, and I hate the idea of like the people I grew up with just being inundated every day with people, you know, with like, oh, trans people are murderers and shooters and pedophiles and groomers and all these things, you know? And it's like, that has to be doing like a psychic thing on the people I grew up with. And I hate the idea that they're like retroactively, slowly changing their image of me. I mean, they know I'm trans, right? Because I was the only trans person. Actually, there was a trans man in my town as well. We ended up realizing that we were both like the only two trans people in our whole like little town, right? Much later on. But that weighs on me. Like, I almost feel like the collective memory of the people who I like actually did a good job leaving a good impression on. And like, I grew up in a really rural conservative area, and no one really had a problem with me because like they knew me, and it was like, okay, yeah, sure. And it's almost like it feels so bad to think that those people are slowly associating me with like evil. It's very strange considering I've always done my best in the world, and they know that. But I don't think that their little tenuous memories of me are going to withstand this like institutional, industrial level onslaught of propaganda. So I'm not sure. I think about that from time to time, and it really hurts. But I hope that, I don't know. So I think about that, but it's frustrating. Remember the 2020 end of the world? You mean Harambe? Isn't that the meme? Everything went bad after Harambe got shot or whatever. I totally blanked. What was your friend's horror channel? The Morbid Zoo. She's great. Currently doing an honors thesis for my linguistics degree with a 2-part perception and production study on voice gender modulation from one coach to another. Thanks for getting you into this field. Glad I could get you into it. Great work. Keep up the research. It's very important. I feel like the quality of studies in vocology are god awful. I mean, what is it? In my large meta-analysis of vocal format data for just vocal format, for example, like it wasn't even until like 1990 did they even start including female voices into these sample datas, or sample sets. Most of the data is like just men, and it's like small sample sizes, terrible research methodologies. I feel like there's such a gap in the research still. And I mean, it's getting a little better, sure, but it takes a lot of time, and research is not easy. That's something I've learned, is that, I have all these big grand ideas for research, but I'm not like that organized. It's really hard to do good research. It's very, very difficult. It takes a long time. It takes a good organized team usually. It takes people who are already in the research field to help you organize along, the making sure that everything's approved, making sure everything is kosher. It's very difficult to do good research. And I think at the end of the day, I'm more of a phenomenologist in one way or another. I'm more of a practical person. I like to be with humans. I like to use my faculties in my experience more so than I like to very slowly work for like 5 years on some study and then publish it. It's not, I don't think I have the constitution for it, but I'm very interested and I have a lot of ideas. I'm working with a team right now on a research project. Our first meeting is tomorrow. I'm very excited about that. We've actually been planning the research study for like 3 years at this point. It's going to be a large scale longitudinal study that longitudinal is maybe not the right word, but it's going to be a very large study, taxonomizing, I don't know if that's right, taxonomizing the voice coach stuff, right? So that we can work better on creating quality filters, right? Like I have a big concern about the kind of quality, because there has been an explosion in voice coaches, right? That's good. That's a good thing, especially because we disseminated more community resources, not just me, but the people who are like me, who are making stuff like me. And it feels like I'm not sure that I trust all of the quality control for all of these different people who are teaching things, And I mean, I'm a perfectionist, so it's always going to be like that. But at the same time, it'd be really cool if we can get a better map of the field, map of the ideas, and then systematically investigate, research those ideas and their qualitative effects and their empirical results with actual trials. And so that's what we're gearing up towards, but I assume it's going to be a very long process, and I'm along for the ride, I'm certainly not the master organizer for it. I don't have that constitution, but I have a lot of experience in this. I mean, I've taught thousands of people TransVoice at this point, and I actually feel like over the years, there was almost a curve where it started off very simple, then it got more complex for me. Got really complex, and then it got really philosophical, and then now I'm like at nadir. I'm like all the way down at the bottom, and everything's so simple now when I teach. It's so clear for me, and it feels like it's very clear for my students in most cases now. So I think that's just a normal curve of learning a skill like that, It sort of, you see all these complexity there, and it takes time for you to compress that complexity into something more elegant and something more approachable. And I think I'm getting towards that part of the process instead, which is exciting because, it feels good. Your onset is the main thing I use to train my voice. Thank you, CL. That's lovely. I'm not in the same place as you politically, but I can definitely relate to the issues. How do you know what place I'm in politically? You don't know. Right? I mean, probably not. I don't know your political constitution either. But, it's, I can, translating what my life was to what it's becoming. Most of my coworkers were neutral. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. I see what you mean. Your onset, I feel you on some levels. It's something I try to be conscious if possible and not let me fall for this trap of always obligatory making something better and better. Yeah, I'm very much a Sisyphean. I'm like always pushing the boulder uphill, trying to like make it better. And I think that I'm starting to be getting to the place where after studying a lot of philosophy of mathematics and getting really into mathematics, I've kind of come to grips with the limits of formal theories and formal models and models at all, and the use of a model, and how do you know that your model's useful, and where does your model apply? And I don't know. I've just put a lot less stock in like, this is the right framing, of the thing. It's like, well, does it work? Does it work? And does it get the job done? And is it coherent and consistent up to some degree? But consistency in some sense is a little overrated, because like, if a student comes in and they have a certain background, I'm not going to be like, oh, I need to talk this way about the thing to be consistent. I'm going to try to meet them where they are, because it's really about the exchange of information and the exchange of experience. And so I think consistency is strangely overrated. There's this interesting notion that I've thought a lot about lately, which is like, I heard someone else say this and it's really resonated with me, but like the space of, like theory is like kind of bounded by your ability to communicate it. And so if you had some master theory that had like the perfect framing of the world, like it doesn't mean literally anything unless other people can understand it. And so your ability to get people on the same page as you is constrained based on the language and the sort of shared tools that you both have. And so you kind of have to, it's always a process of communication. It's really not so much about a model or about a frame or whatever, but rather like, how can we get to the same page, and that's not really included in models or theories or voice, education static resources. That's something for a long time I became very frustrated, because I was working on a voice book, which I still am, and it's pretty much done largely. But I became very dissatisfied because it felt like every time I would make a static resource and I would write it all down and I'd put it all in one place, it wasn't the thing, the thing was like fleeting from the pages. And that like drove me mad for a while. And so, I mean, it makes sense now, right? Because again, it's like, who is the audience for? If I write this book, is it for vocologists? Is it for voice coaches? Is it for actual people who don't have any vocal background and they pick the book up and try to learn? Well, if it's for that latter group, I mean, really the important thing are the audio files, not really the text. Even for the voice coaches, the important thing is not really the text. It's actually like the qualitative targets or the actual exposure events that you have to give in order for a person to build their listening language and include it in their listening language, so it can be included in their perceptual language, so that they can have the acuity over their own actions to parse and process the value and quality of what they're doing, so that they can converge towards their goals. Now I'm just waffling on, but these are things I think about a lot, and they're part of the frustration I have with YouTube. Is like, I can create a static video, but like there's no static video that's going to speak to all the audiences at once and talk about all the things I need it to say at once. And even though the 2-hour video, well, guess what? By it being 2 hours, you just actually cut off a huge portion of the audience. So it's like, who is your audience? What are you trying to say? How are you trying to communicate? And I think I'm learning to wrestle with that a little better, and the limits that come with that. My family was let me read up here. My family was a mix. Wait, where we go? I see what you mean. You didn't come from the same. Yeah, that makes sense. I got you now. I see that. Thank you for sharing your stories. You're inspiring. Happy holidays. Thank you. Glad to be inspiring. Happy holidays to you too. I actually do celebrate Christmas, so Merry Christmas. If any Jewish friends are out there, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever all the happy holidays. I hope everyone's doing well. I've always been Christmas. I grew up in the whole Judeo-Christian. I guess not Judeo-Christian in this sense, but I like to say that I have Christian shame and Catholic guilt, despite being an atheist since 14. I mean, I don't identify as an atheist so much. I'm more of like I don't know, I don't really put a label on it. I think there's something inexplicable about this experience we're going through that warrants closer investigation, but I've not been compelled or convinced by any theistic arguments. The problem of evil is a big one for me when it comes to the biblical story, but we don't have to get into that. But I do find Christmas to be a nice holiday to share with people. So, otherwise I wouldn't be doing a Christmas stream, I guess. Research isn't really glorious. Exactly. There's a lot of chasing citations for things you think you come up with, but someone else wrote about it first. That's true too. But also, I mean, the real difficult part is that it's more so like Even if you do a great empirical study, good sample size, good, like what you can actually conclude off of it is like so limited, always, you know, it just necessarily is so limited. And I'm not sure if you've all have heard of something called the reference class problem, but this is a philosophical problem in statistics, philosophy of statistics. And you could argue as well, it's kind of a metaphysical problem, but the reference class problem is something that I think plagues the ability to do academic research, because all of our results are like very conditional, and even the conditions that they're in are like restrictive. So like, you know, for example, in speech work, when we study speaking voices, having someone speak in a study is not the same as how someone speaks with their friends, and having someone read something or produce a vowel or trying to measure vowel data. Then we have this problem of, do we use LPC for the vowels? And then we inverse filter it so that we extract the formants that way. Do we do it over a time series, like where we take multiple sampled points of it? Do we do it over a static vowel? How do we turn that dynamic speaking event into some static data point? It's not really clear, and there's not really a best way to do it, and those problems aren't resolved, and there are huge gaps in our ability to like make meaningful, conclusive statements about human voice. And they're not going away, you know. We might chisel away at them, but those are like fundamental problems. And yeah, I don't know. So the reference class problem is something that's been on my mind a lot lately too. You're doing great musically though. Your output feels quite healthy. Thank you. I've written a lot more than what I've published. So if I can get back in the groove of like pressing publish, you'll probably see a lot more music pop up too. Reading. Let's see here. Will you have CD albums out? I've got several albums out, actually. I've got maybe 6 albums on my Bandcamp. And my 5th LP, I've got EPs and LPs. I've got 4 LPs. But my 5th LP, I've been working on since like 2020. It's pretty much like 80-90% done, but I'm just like so burnt out on these songs. I just want to move on from them. So I've been thinking about biting the bullet and not being a perfectionist and just literally being like, that's my album. Hope you guys like it. So I can move on and write new stuff, because I'm really so burnt out on Hex and Witchcraft and these tunes that I've been working on, and Sarianala, which hasn't been heard by people. And I don't have a name for it, but it's called Pintle Revision on my FL Studio. You know, these are projects I've worked on for so long. I'm so burnt out on them. I've played the songs to death. I've mixed them to death. I've processed them to death. I've remixed them. I've bounced them. It's just, I'm just so over it. I just need to move on from that album, because there's no new ideas coming into it. Like, I've got new ideas for other things, but those ideas are all like contained already. So I work in biology and realized early on that I'm not cut out at all for research. I just don't have the right headspace. It's pretty nightmarish, like, honestly. There's something very romantic about the idea of doing research, you know, like getting to the bottom of things. But it's like, when you really start to tackle problems of research, you kind of realize it's really hard to prove anything. It's incredibly hard. Even statistical evidence with strong, compelling stuff, it's still very contingent. Thanks to you, I fully trained my voice in secret and by home myself. Aw, congrats, that's awesome. Wait, Heat from Fire is outdated? No, not like that. I mean, like, I haven't heard, you know, I haven't thought about it like that in a while. It's not outdated, but, you know, I appreciate it. It means a lot to know that there's still people out there heating the fire and firing the heat, you know? Oh, gosh. God, yeah, some coaches out there are god awful for the community. I really hate how many influence coaches. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I totally agree. It's like, it's, like, I've got a lot of followers, therefore I know what I'm doing. It's like, it doesn't actually work that way, by the way, you know? So, yeah. So good to see you back. Hope to see more of you in the coming year. Me too. That's a cat member pair. You could be a girl too. Have you worked with speech language pathologists? Worked in what way? I mean, I haven't worked with them as like their clients, but yes, I've worked alongside different speech pathologists. I've actually trained some speech pathologists. I actually get emails from speech pathologists sometimes saying that they like forward my resources to some of their students for like extra, you know, information and training and stuff. I spoke at a biomedical conference in Portugal a couple years ago. I published in the Clinics of Otolaryngology, gender affirming manual. They had like a chapter, or like not a chapter, they had a book on this, and so I contributed a chapter to it as well. So I've like worked alongside some SLPs and stuff, but I'm not an SLP. I don't think of myself like that. Let's see. I think there's a big gap that the SLPs have, primarily the oral skills, primarily the practical skills. I think they have a lot of good knowledge, and I think it's always great to have an SLP working alongside me with a client. Like, let's say I'm working with a voice student. I'd love being able to have an SLP also working with the person, where they can like basically get this like regular scheduled training that's usually on insurance, and it's like, it's going to really promote healthy vocalization and efficient phonation. I think that's great. So I like to have like almost a sort of in conjunction with what I do. I think it's cool to have an SLP on board, but that's the extent of my work with SLPs. That connection's so important. I've had many teachers that absolutely do not have any problems objectively, but I had a hard time personally syncing with their style of teaching. Totally. And I think there's been times in my life where I've been too bullheaded, where I was too convicted in my beliefs. And so I almost, that triumphed over the dynamic interaction. But I think after a long time, I don't think of it like that anymore. I don't have like, I know this is what you need to do. And it's like, it's more like, well, let's make sure you understand what you're going for, in some sense, and what will help generally, hopefully. And if it doesn't help, then we don't spin our wheels on it. We keep looking, we work together. About the trans panic, it's weird to me because my country murders trans people the most in the world, yet it's extremely tied to class over here. So I don't feel it as much being middle class. Where are you at? I'm gonna maybe I'm guessing wrong, but I'm kind of feeling like maybe Brazil. If I'm wrong, maybe I'm wrong, but I just know there's a large trans population there, and there's a big class disparity, and might not be, maybe I'm way off base, so let me know. My experience exactly, I teach many things, not voice, and making resources without seeing a concrete receiver react is so limiting. Exactly. It literally drives me crazy. The 3 anatomic regions that create R1, R2, R3 still the main things that determine voice. I wouldn't have ever really framed it that way. I mean, there's not discrete regions of your vocal tract that create resonance. Rather, resonance is a passive constant of your vocal tract. And indeed, there are roughly strong correlates to, like, let's say your pharynx volume can be pegged closely to R1 and so on. But they're nonlinear, the vocal tract and also the source filter relationship. It's not like we have the buzzing vocal folds and then a perfect filter after them in a linear model, even though the most common vocology model that people think through is the linear source filter model. Voice is actually not linear. How you phonate and how you produce sound necessarily constrains the space of resonances you can kind of have access to. But yes, I would argue indeed resonance is like by far the biggest factor in getting your voice to change sex and gender presentation. The next being, if you're trying to change resonance, you can't strain your voice. You can't labor. You can't tighten. You have to have efficient phonation at those higher pitches and good resonance, because oftentimes people will be like, I need to crank my resonance up, and then they induce all this extra hyperphonation and tension in their voice, and that doesn't sound natural, right? Because natural speaking voices are lazy and relaxed. And so if it sounds like you're working while you're doing other stuff, it's actually going to work against the result you get, and that's something that we really try to take care of. You're so pretty, you look like an elf. Thank you. How generalizable the conclusions? Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It's very difficult to generalize conclusions from papers, even if the papers are very strong. I think the reference class problem is a good reasoning for that, but there's other reasons. That's just one that's been on my mind. It's so bizarre because I have some conservative relatives and neighbors who spew the most heinous transphobic stuff, but then I came out and they were able to respect me easily. That's what I'm saying. I feel like I'm like gaslit by the world. Like, it feels like I go around in my day-to-day life. No one knows I'm trans anyways. But if I do tell someone they're trans, even if I'm trans and they're conservative, they don't really care that much. Like, it feels completely astroturf. The trans hatred thing is like completely astroturf culture war nonsense. It's very, very disorienting, and it almost makes you feel like you're being gaslit by the world in some sense, you know? I'll be looking forward to your books you write. Thank you. Hopefully I can finish them. I mean, God, I just keep redrafting, but totally off topic, but is the channel thumbnail the hermetic seal of silence? I've always been curious about why you chose that pic. I don't know the hermetic seal of silence. Oh, you mean this. No, actually, I'm not sure. Good point. I mean, it's kind of nice. I see what you mean. There's nothing secret behind it or anything. I just did a photo shoot in like 2017 or 2019, and I had a picture like that, and it kind of worked good for a voice channel, so I kept it. After 2 years of watching, I just have to know, do you like Fortnite? Never played Fortnite. I'm more of an old school gamer. I like Chaos Theory. I like Brood War. I like Diablo. I like, lots of old games like that. Halo 2, I'm from a different time period, so Fortnite was a little too, like, young shit for me, you know what I mean? Like, I never really got into it, but it seems pretty fun. For academics, the limited scope of any conclusion is often a good thing for their careers. Narrower conclusions equal more papers, plus, I know. And so, like, the whole paper mill and the whole, like, I've really been disillusioned by that whole infrastructure, and I don't feel like I really fit in there that much, and it's what it is. So, but I agree with you very much. And also, it's great to see you, Anne. I recognize your profile picture. I recognize you, and I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're thriving. And it's good to hear from you. I'm thirsty. Let's see. I'm personally polytheistic because I notice and see that people use religion to justify psychological violence, and that's gross. Religion has always been traumatic. Yeah, for me, religion's not really traumatic so much as, like, I want to believe in, like, God really bad. I actually really want to believe super bad, but I've just never heard a compelling argument. So, I'm open to changing my mind because I really do want to believe in God. And I mean, in some sense, I believe in God as this, like, the imminent thing that's happening. Like, I think of it like this. Experience is kind of like a zeroth order stream. And my ability to point to things like that flower or like me, in some sense, my indexicality, using my indexicality is like a first order predicate over this, like, continuous stream that you have and I have. And it sort of feels like the content of that first order stream is kind of like what I think of God. It's like inexplicable because in order for me to explain it or index it, I'm necessarily predicating over it. And there's like this extensionary thing on it. So I kind of think of like the imminent thisness, pure thisness as like what God is in some sense. But I don't have a deistic, there's not a person, right? It's not like a Godhead or anything. It's more like actuality in some sense is like godlike to me. But I would like to believe in a God, that's a really compelling story. And I think that there's some cool things that come from it and community and blah, 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 blah. I think there's a lot of good secondary reasons why people believe in God. But I just, again, I'm just not convinced that that it's real. So, I mean, I'm convinced that reality is like real, or like this actuality is happening. And that's what I mean about like when I think of God. But it's, I don't know. And I think there's actually, you can almost think of the way that God has been used as an icon in human cultures as almost like a pragmatic or practical object to animate like actions from. And I think that there's a lot of utility in that as well. Like knowing who I am as a person through all the years broke all the propaganda they've been fed. See, I felt that's how it happened for me too. It like broke their propaganda when people would meet me and, they knew me and stuff before. But now I'm almost worried that I've been out of that community for like 6-7 years, and I'm afraid that, it's thinner and so on, Yeah, a lot of the time if you work on some music for long enough, you realize that it's not you anymore. In the moment, that music was you, but now it doesn't reflect you. That's right. Brazil is right. Okay, so yeah, I'm really, and I educated enough on the conditions in Brazil for trans people that I get what you're saying there about that like dissonance where it's really class-based. So this is a weird question, but here it goes. If a dinosaur could emulate human speech, specifically English, what do you think it would sound like? Would their voice be more dark or more light? Well, that's very interesting. I mean, my intuition is that it would be very dark, largely speaking. But again, the ability to emulate human speech, specifically English, almost implies and entails that your resonance patterns at least cohere close enough to English phoneme that it wouldn't really probably have a bias either way. But I would imagine if you're like a long-necked dinosaur and you're trying to speak English, you'd probably sound darker. But maybe like a pterodactyl or a little baby pterodactyl like Petrie from The Land Before Time would probably be buzzier. So it depends. I mean, depends on the organism, right? But that's an interesting question. I'm tempted to say that the dinosaur speech would sound and be contingent on the particular dinosaur involved. How do you like the Thief Classic duology? I'm not familiar with that, actually. Greetings all. Is this a voice stream or just a chill stream? A little bit of both. I've talked about some things, but we're not doing like voice stuff today. I was just, catching up and letting everyone know how everything's going, and I wanted to create a little bit of a Christmas stream while there was still some time. But yeah. Wanting so badly to believe is such an atheistic thing, though, at least in my experience. Yeah, because it's like, it seems like a really beautiful idea to think that this was all made for us, and we're chosen, and we'll have eternal happiness, and it's like, it's very comforting to believe in God. But yeah, I don't know, I've never been able to like bridge the gap on the problem of evil, at least for deistic religions that have like monotheistic godheads, like personified gods. I remember I learned about the problem of evil when I was like 14, and it's like, it's been with me ever since, and because I think it's actually a real big problem for monotheistic godheads. But yeah, it's that's not the only reason, obviously, but I would like to believe. It's just I'm a radical skeptic in general. I mean, I went through a Pyrrhonist phase, okay? So I don't know if anyone knows what that even is, but Pyrrhonism is like an ancient Greek philosophical school of radical skepticism. So like, I've gone through a Pyrrhonist arc, I might be one of the few like living Pyrrhonists, or I was at one point. These days I am taking more the turn of things where like these big metaphysical questions I just try to not think about. Buddha described them as the imponderables, and I think he had described them as that, or rather he didn't describe them that way. He just remained silent when people asked those hard metaphysical questions, and then later on they were documented as the imponderables. And they kind of feel like cognito hazards or info hazards. Like if you ponder them, like it kind of makes you feel like you're not real. So these days I just sort of, I try not to think so much about those metaphysical questions, because I actually think that there's not a resolution to them. And in some sense, I'm a bit of a philosophical deflationist, meaning I think that a lot of things that we think of as like intractable problems aren't even really problems at all. And if we had the right approach, which is maybe like being here, like we wouldn't even really think of them. They're kind of like reactionary inference questions. I don't know how to say it best, but yeah, I don't really think there necessarily are problems. Most things I don't think are really problems. It's a problem to us because we want something from it that we're not getting, I think. Let's see. You probably already mentioned, but can I ask what you're studying these days? Yeah, I spent the last year studying math, actually. A lot of different kinds of math. I'm very interested in elementary number theory. I like differential geometry. I like elementary number theory. I like that kind of stuff. But I've also been studying a lot of music, practicing a lot of different things. I've been studying, I wouldn't really call it studying, but I've been getting back to work on my voice teaching stuff, for a while there, I was like, I kind of crashed out, and I actually quit teaching for like 5 months, just because I needed some space or whatever, and, but now I'm actually very interested in the topic again, and I'm very active in it again, so I've been studying voice stuff, I've been studying math stuff, always studying philosophy here and there, music. I studied Mandarin for a while. I kind of fell off studying Mandarin this last year, but now I'm like really trying to get back into it because I just like to learn things, and Mandarin's really cool. I wanted to learn like a really hard language that was tonal to sort of go through the process of being like a beginner in speech again, so that was fun. A year and a half ago, I did a month-long residency in Bogliasco in Italy, off the Ligurian Sea, and I was working on my music theory, primodality, and harmony treatise. That was just such an incredible blessing. It was an incredible gathering of artists and researchers and humanities thinkers, and I learned so much from that process and being around those people. I made a lot of good friends. I met an amazing poet, Andy Shin, who was so inspiring. We I'll never ever, I will, if Andy ever watches this, Andy, I'll never ever forget that time. It's one of the best times of my life. Chalet, triple whammy, double motor, listening, dancing in the rain on the coast of the sea. Just always being inspired. I've had a lot of beautiful moments that I'm really grateful for. I'm about to cry thinking about them. So life has been good, but somehow I seem to make it hard, if that makes sense, you know? I'm the best at making my life worse than what it really is. And I'm trying to get better at not doing that. But yeah, if I reflect, I just feel there's just, again, I'll borrow from religion, but there's just blessings. I just feel like in all of the bad that I feel, or all of the dread and existential angst I feel, I just can't help but find that it's just been nothing but blessings for me. So I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful for people even being here. I honestly, had an irrational fear that I've been forgotten about. I'm out of the Geist. I've disappeared and no one knows me anymore, right? But obviously it's not really true. I still get interesting emails and messages and stuff, but I was never a person to be good at emails or be good at keeping up conversations with people over the internet. And so I think a lot of people over the years reached out to me, don't hear back, and then they move on from me, but I've never been like that. I've just always been on my own. I've never really I've never really found solace in other people. I've always found solace in things, whatever those things are, whether they're the sounds that I feel, the emotions that I have in my body, the beauty of things, Still in the Geist. It's great to see you, Blair. I hope you're doing incredible. You're my mod. Look at that. You're my mod. You're the only wrench in chat. Let's fucking go. I hope you're doing amazing. By the way, I need to give you your electron back. What's it called? It's the names escape me because I have my own. That's why. I appreciate you letting me borrow yours for a long time. Octatrack. I've got my own now. So I whenever you're in LA again, swing by, we'll jam, and I would love to give you your Octatrack back. And thank you very much for letting me play with it because it got me into it. So yeah. It definitely was. Thank you. Yeah, I actually did a gig last October with my Digitact. I played with Brendan Burns at this interesting pirate bar in Los Angeles. It was so cool. I was blown away because I didn't know what to expect. I was just asked to play the show with Brendan, and I didn't really promote it at all. And I show up there and there's fans of mine. Some people drove from San Francisco. Some people drove from Nevada to watch my one electronic concert that I've done in 5 years. It was absolutely one of the most humbling experiences of my life. And they were that reminds me, those people. So that's what I mean about my weakness is not remaining in contact with people. Because there was a luthier that came and they were I want to make you a microtonal guitar. I need to make you a microtonal guitar. I'm so into that. I've got their number. I need to text them back and they thank you, right? It's that was one of the most humbling and beautiful experiences of my whole life, to be honest. I had no, because there was a nice little audience, and I was oh, they're here for Brendan, or they're here. There was a band touring from New England or the East Coast. And I was oh, okay, there's a lot of people here. That's cool. I wonder who they're here to see. Turns out they were all there to see me. I drew everybody. It was crazy. And I'm a huge fan of Brendan Burns, so I'm surely those are Brendan's audience, right? Because he's so dope. It was just so, it was very humbling, let me just say. So, again, blessings. Learning Mandarin tones took a long time. For me, the tones didn't take long, actually. I instantly got their sounds. For me, it was more so vocabulary. It's just building that vocabulary. And I hear a lot of Mandarin now. So I think, or not Mandarin, I hear a lot of Taiwanese now. So I think that's because my partner is Taiwanese, and so I'm hearing a lot of Taiwanese spoken, and so that kind of is what derailed my studies. Is I was actually studying Mandarin from someone in Beijing, and very thick dark accent type thing, and then I suddenly started hearing a lot of Taiwanese, and then becomes ci, and it's what the hell? So I've kind of had to reorient myself a little bit. In learning that, and I definitely want to resume my Mandarin studies because it's super fun. messes out when people don't reach out. I left in October and my first unprompted non-family text came last week. Aw, well, at least you got one, right? That's what I mean. We got to focus on the positives. Definitely not dwell on the negatives. I love what you do for us trans girlies. I'm in med school studying to be an epidemiologist. Oh, that's like, okay, like studying disease spread and stuff, okay? And your voice training prepares me for advocacy with a voice. Oh, that means so much, Safi. I'm so glad to hear that. Honestly, I would love a series in which you talk about your side interests like math, physics, or religion. That'd be super fun. Like, that's the thing I almost feel frustrated with. It's like, I kind of pigeonholed myself a little bit much with this channel. I mean, the name of it's pretty apropos, right? TransVoiceLessons. So, but yes, I would love to make a video on maths, but I'm still a newbie, right? So like, I didn't have a strong math background. That's why I dove headfirst in it. But I did hire several math teachers and math tutors, and they've taught me a lot. And I've added a lot of math into my library, and every day I'm studying. Actually, this has been on my mind a lot lately. Riemannian geometry. I've been very into differential geometry, and I'm really trying to wrap my head around Riemannian geometry. It's very, very cool. I'm partially through the way. I'm on page 104 of this, and I'm working slowly, trying to work through the practice problems and understand things. I'm also very interested in, this is a good book by Andre Weil, but Dirichlet series in automorphic forms. I'm really interested in automorphism and elementary number theory type things. And I read a large book on the prime number theorem. So I like studied through the proof of prime number theorem, which was really, really cool. That helped me learn a lot about math. I feel like it's such a foundational result. So maybe not foundational in that sense, and then there are some really interesting proofs in math that I find really beautiful, or theorems. Like there's that one theorem in topology about, it's just so intuitive, but like for any map over, I think, I don't know, that I can't state it right, but like there will always be a fixed point on the map that exactly corresponds to where the map is in space or something. It's a really cool thing. I don't know. So math was always a thing I had a gap in, and it's something that I'm really trying to get stronger in, and it's really interesting. I've proved a couple little things. I thought I proved something really big last year, but that was delusion because I was like manic. But luckily I'm not a crank, so I learned I was wrong, and then retracted that, and then I've been able to formally study and get more rigorous. But I like to tackle big problems. So I've been working on Erdos problem number 699, and I actually did prove a lemma which restricts the falsifiability criteria to a much smaller, computationally tractable set of finite counterexamples to look at. So eventually, once I work with a computer scientist, I'm sure they can just run that and run it up to 1 million, whereas searching through that space before without that falsifiability restriction getting tighter would actually be too much to search up to 1 million, for example. So that's been a cool thing. I found that out 2 weeks ago. I had learned about Kummer's theorem, which is like the base P carrying theorem, whatever. I don't know. I won't go into math right now, but and I realized that you could actually use that to basically constrain the search space for the binomial coefficients if P divides the GCD of the binomial coefficients for this thing. So I was thinking about that, and that was kind of cool. And luckily I have a mathematician friend, and they looked at it and they were like, yeah, that'll work. Let's try it or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of cool. I think it's fun to do that. It'd be cool to solve an Erdo problem. I mean, all I have to do is find one counterexample, right? Easier said than done. But I did restrict it a little smaller, which is at least publishable. So that's kind of fun. I don't know if I'll publish it just because it's a lot of, again, I don't know. I'm just more interested in the knowledge itself rather than the performance of the knowledge itself, let's say. If you're interested in reading metaphysics, you might like Seth Speaks by the author Jane Roberts. I'll try to remember that when I look over the chat later. I am interested in metaphysics. I've read a lot of metaphysics. These days I try to avoid it though, because I actually think it's like, again, it fits into the imponderable problems. You have such a cool life. Thank you. I'm very grateful for, I pretty much, here's an interesting question. Where do you get the drive to study so many things so deeply? I admire people who are able to do it. I feel like I kind of could do it, but I sabotage myself. I've always been like this. I don't know what to tell you. Like, since I was like literally like 8 years old, I've been obsessed with it. I think it had to do with when I was younger, the earliest forms of positive feedback and reinforcement I got we're about learning, we're about knowledge, we're about, knowing things, or like the excitement and exhilaration of like thinking I knew a thing and then going and learning about it and figuring it out more. I just feel like my like early childhood formation for what it is to do good is like so tied up with learning, and it's always been like that. So I'm always bouncing around from thing to thing and trying to go as deep as I can. I mean, when I studied music composition in college, which is what my undergraduate education's in, my primary education, I had read like, from like 1200 all the way up to like the 1900s of music theory literature, or like the big texts of music theory, before I even went to college for music theory and composition. So I've always had that kind of independent, studious, or autodidactic profile. And it's just something I don't know. I like wake up and like, that's just what I do. For a lot of last year, I would just wake up every day at like 8 in the morning and just like study math until like lunch, and then like do something else for a little bit. And that's the only way I was able to get more knowledge about it. Again, I'm still a noob in math, so I don't want to pretend like I'm some expert. I'm sure if there's, someone out there with a math master's, they're mogging me. They're math mogging me. But I'm very interested in it. And I really got into math because of harmony. There was certain systems I was studying in harmony, specifically like just intonation and my own primodal systems of just intonation. And I really wanted to formalize them. And then I also got really interested in the philosophy of mathematics. What are numbers? Those kinds of things. And what can we prove about them? And where do those proofs really begin and end, and so on. And that ended up going into something more rigorous, which took me into actual maths instead of like, talking about the maths, let's say. So still a lot to learn there. I flirted with the idea of like, I don't know, going to grad school for math, just because I'm very interested in it. But now I'm kind of over that. I think I can do enough on my own independent study and hiring teachers that know a lot more about it than me to help me learn interesting things. But yeah, I've been tempted to go and maybe like go back to school for music composition, just because I've been working on a string quartet and I want to find I want to create a rehearsal community who make microtonal music, and I like the idea of being back in a community, because I've kind of been isolated as a hermitess for several years. Like I've just sitting in here in my house or around my little private domicile studying, and it's like I kind of miss being with people in some sense, even though I said I've always been alone, right? It's like it's kind of nice to have people who are also around you that are super stoked about what you're interested in. So I don't know, I've flirted with that, because I could still like teach and like do the things I'm doing while also, I don't know, just continuing my education formally. Just kind of sounds like a romantic idea. But I've always been like romantically inspired by education. So, I've always thought, when I was like 16 years old, like someone asked me once, they were like, what is the meaning of life? And I was like, it's to learn and grow, and that's been my mantra, I guess. And I haven't really found a better answer for it. So, yeah. How many languages do you speak? English, German poorly, and just a tiny bit of Mandarin. So not a lot of language. I'm not like a language expert or anything, but I am a voice expert. I will say that about myself. Is there any advice you'd give now or in the future to someone who wants to voice train but is very embarrassed and scared of their voice? Yeah, a couple things. One, it can be very helpful to practice with things going on in the background, like other sounds, because, it might be a lot for you to just face your voice in the deafening silence of your room. Like, sound is literally like disruptions of an otherwise fluid medium. Air is a bunch of fluid around you, and when you make sound, you animate it. And so it can be a lot to go from like a totally silent room to like, now I'm the only thing filling this room. So it can be helpful to put things on in the background while you vocalize. Another thing is to like, it's not really so much at first about like, are you doing the right practice? Are you doing the right exercises? It's really more so about, are you vocalizing regularly? And so you kind of want to rewire your like feedback loop to being like, you make a sound and go, oh my God, that's so bad, I don't know what I'm doing, to more so like, I'm going to make sound because I don't know what I'm doing. Because I don't know what I'm doing, that's why I have to make a bunch of sound. And you don't even really want to like consider so much early on about the qualitative value of it, because you don't know how good it's going to be or not, right? You actually can't know till you do it. And furthermore, as a beginner, you probably don't have the perceptual faculties to really process what you're doing and be like, this is good, this is bad, right? So for now, you can just throw that out, make sound, get used to playing with your voice. And then as you're playing with your voice in real time, you develop the perceptual and motor abilities to like get more precision and to be able to interact with a more refined sense of what you're doing. And that's where then you can actually make intentional choices about what you're making. So there's a couple things. Yeah, that's one. It's like actually drown yourself out. You could put other things on in the background and just hum. It doesn't have to be like, I've never done voice training before. I think I have a masculine voice. Now I'm just going to try to sound like a girl or something. You don't have to do it that way. It can be as simple as like, I'm watching a movie and I'm humming in the background. And the more you do that, the more you build actual embodied ability that allows you to generalize those abilities, to get more specific with them, to collect perceptual experience, and blah, 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 blah. Then you can be more specific. I think that that's a trap that people fall into, is that they feel like, they don't know what they're doing, and the uncertainty is very fearful, because we like hate uncertainty, but like education lives inside of uncertainty. Education's about discovering things for yourself. So you have to jump into that uncertainty, and there's ways to mitigate how uncertain it is. One of those being to drop the normative like valuation, right? Normative meaning like, is it good or is it bad? Should it be this or should it be that? Drop that and just make sound and see what you can do with your voice first. And that gives a much more accessible platform, I think. So I wonder whether the vocal coach with a musician had an easy time with Mandarin tones. Yeah, exactly. In fact, I found when I was studying the Mandarin tones, it was an inspiring light to think more about intonation with regular speech. By regular, I mean like English. This is what I'm familiar with. So I was going to rewatch the old Xmas streams. Well, you've got a new one now. So was it the Brouwer fixed point theorem? Maybe. I like that one too. That's cool. It is called the Borsuk-Ulam theorem. Yeah. Where there, for any point, I think it might. I'm just wondering, the thing I wasn't sure about, so I didn't say it. I think it's a theorem that's restricted to Euclidean spaces. I think. So it's like for any Euclidean space, if you have a map of it, there's always at least one exact fixed point that is where it's at in space for that map or something. Something like that. It's like, that was one of the most beautiful results I ever heard, because it's like so rational, right? If I had a map of like Los Angeles, there quite literally is on some continuous level. If you could somehow zoom in, like there actually is like a point there that I'm on, but obviously it's like too small. Like the discrete boundary is like kind of weird, but it's such an interesting thought still nonetheless. I find it very inspiring. I teach myself quantum mechanics, cosmology, and philosophy sometimes. Quantum mechanics I'm holding off on. I gotta learn a lot more. I do have the DeLine text, quantum fields for mathematicians, and like I've read a little bit of that, but then like I read like the first 10 pages, I'm like, shit, I need to know more about Lie algebra. I need to know more about, gauge theory and stuff. So I think I have a lot more to do first before I approach quantum stuff, that's for sure. But it does seem, I like a lot of the forms that come out of it, though. Like a lot of the anti-self-dual type things. I'm very into forms that are kind of anti-self-dual or self-dual, kind of both. It's fun. It was in a Vsauce video about fixed points. Oh, that's cool. Vsauce is dope. Quantum philosophy is one of my favorite subjects because it's critical to the nature of consciousness. Maybe, arguably. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you, but I don't know enough about it to confidently say that either way. I mean, I suspect that not just quantum philosophy is important to consciousness, but I think that you can't really get consciousness out of anything. And I think that's kind of a problem with all of our research, is that we kind of want to separate ourselves out of the picture, but like we're always in the picture even when we're not like present. So I don't know, but I think still the empirical science is good. And I think that, we don't have to necessarily wrestle with that in order to get some fun findings and good critical findings that let us build new things or know things about the world. But I definitely think that if we really want to get a better understanding of the world, it feels like there's a huge gap in our understanding of consciousness. But I also don't know how tractable that is. One of my favorite texts of all time is Consciousness and Experience by Lycan. If you're like into philosophy and consciousness or whatever, and you haven't read Consciousness and Experience by Lycan, you need to read it. It's an incredible book. I'm not a well, I'm not sure. I'm on the fence about physicalism versus not physicalism, but he makes an incredible argument and incredible just overview of like what's active in that field, and more so than any other person, I think he really deals with the problem of when we talk about consciousness, how we're usually referring to lots of different things: phenomenal consciousness, access consciousness, blah 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 blah, as Ned Block would write it. So it's maybe one of the most interesting texts I've read on consciousness. I think most texts I've read on consciousness are like kind of just a bunch of waffling, and they don't really have that much interesting things to contribute. But Lycan's text is like really, really good. I'm impressed by it. So would recommend that. You should study physics if you haven't already. I haven't. I mean, my physics kind of ends classically. I don't really understand a lot of like relativity math stuff yet. That's pretty wild stuff for me. But I'm definitely working my way there. Like I find like I inevitably get pulled back to physics no matter what. I understand like acoustics, because a lot of acoustics is largely like simple classical relationships. But I'm very interested in like chaotic systems and nonlinear acoustics and stuff like that. But I just don't have the tools yet for that. I've also thought about going back to school to study with Lumitone as you should. That'd be awesome. And I'll go with you. Let's like go to the same place and like create like the microtonal hub in the world. How about that? That'd be fucking awesome. Excuse my language. Where'd you go to college anyway? I'll keep that off the record. Small town college. It wasn't like a crazy good university or anything, but I just don't, it's a little too close to home, if you know what I mean. Thoughts on the latest Dexter series? Great question. You must be a super fan, because you must know that I am a Dexter super fan and have been a Dexter super fan forever. I loved the new season. I thought it was maybe one of the best seasons since maybe season 4. It might be like season 2, or no, it might be like season 4, season 2, the new season 1, season 3. Wait, 3 had Miguel Prado, right? It's all right. But yeah, it was definitely like peak Dexter, fire on all cylinders type Dexter. I was blown away by it. So yeah, you like jazz? Yeah, I've played jazz most of my adult life. Part of me wonders if I should go back to college, because I never really fit in and barely have the energies to keep going. Oh, look, there's a super chat. Thank you very much. Let me read that. Is there a way to live monitor your voice in real time besides record and playback? I have a hard time matching my intended sound to my audible sound. Yeah, you can get an interface and it'll do that for you. So like I'm running through a Focusrite right now, and then it has its own software called Focus. What's it called? Let me pull it up. It's just the Focusrite Scarlett software, and I can put a monitor feed in my ears. So I have a very quiet signal of my voice. That's like the main way. You have to get an interface for it. If you don't have an interface, it probably won't be real time, and you have to have any real time playback, or you have to have any vocal playback to yourself real time. Otherwise, you'll get like a speech jammer effect, and you won't be able to talk. Like imagine you're talking with a friend on Discord, and there's like a delay, and they're open micing you back. It's hard to talk in that context. So you'll need to get an interface, and then once you have an interface, it should come with all you need in order to just give yourself live monitoring. Also, you know, there is a video on this channel about this little fun exercise called elephant ears, which is where you like do this. You can find that video. That's a good way to get like live monitoring in real spatial environments, but you know, obviously it's not exactly what you're asking about there, but the best way you're asking about is to get an interface for sure. I have truly learned so much off YouTube. When I go outside and they're like, YouTube is just for cat videos. It's so liminal space coded. That's funny. I'm in university studying percussion. Have you written for percussion? Yes, actually. I was a percussion principal instrument. Piano was my secondary instrument. Percussion was my primary. And I actually wrote a lot of percussion music, including a clarinet concerto for percussion ensemble. So clarinet is supported by like 7 percussionists. I've written a lot of percussion music, and I played a lot of percussion music. I feel like percussion is something that, I mean, I've got my drum set right in front of me. You can't see it. It's off camera, but I've got drum mics. I can record live drums. It's pretty fun. I actually just got a new kit like 3 years ago, and it's been really, really great. It's a lot smaller. I used to have a 24-inch kick, like a big booming kick when I played a lot of metal. Ironically, it's not really the best kick for metal, but it's just what my aunt was able to get me when I was like in high school. When I turned 16 years old, my aunt was like, do you want a beater car or do you want like a drum set? And I was like, give me the fucking drum set. I don't care about driving. So she got me this Gretsch Catalina Club mod kit, and I played on that for about a decade before I got a different one. It'd be cool if you teach music. I do teach music. I've taught music my whole life, actually. I taught music before I taught voice. Yeah, I still do teach some musicians. Let's see. I'm in the university study for, and then surely you have anything in your preferred musical languages. Oh yeah, okay. I didn't read the rest of that question, but yeah, I mean, percussion is like the heart and soul for music for me in some sense. It's, I mean, harmony and articulation and just the way it comes together is really what I like the most about music. But composition is incredible, percussion is incredible. Are we all just fleshy blips in some cosmic meaningless stew, or is it vice versa? I think the jury's out on that one. You know, my Discord name is Apophene, and my Twitter handle is Apophene, because in some sense I think it's not exactly clear if what we're going through is like a very complex apophonetic experience. I'm pretty on the fence about that. Like I feel like things are very meaningful, but like I'm not sure if I can actually separate like when something is genuinely meaningful from when something is like when I'm thinking there's meaning there that's not. So I'm not exactly sure about that. I think it's a very open question. I like to think that it is not just a meaningless cosmic stew. But at the same time, again, like I said before, I'm not sure. That would be an imponderable. So actually the Buddha would remain silent. I will do the same. And I'll let you come to your own decisions. Let's farm the scholarships by playing weirdo. Blair, you are the thinker. The thinker. That's so big brained. You're not wrong about that. They totally would want us in their team, wouldn't they? They'd be like, we want these musicians. The premier harmonic theorist and then the premier lumitone wizard Blair. That's crazy. You're right about that. I'll just write a shit ton of like pieces for lumitone and you'll have all your repertoire material and we'll reinvent the wheel for real. Let's see. Thanks for putting yourself out here today. Thanks for being here. Honestly, I wasn't even sure that anybody would be here. I thought maybe I was forgotten in the Geist, but apparently I'm not, which is a great honor. So that encouraged me a lot. You're looking serious. Oh dear. Let me look a little more fun. I don't know. How do I look more fun? Oh gosh. I feel like I look like a mess. My hair has been a total mess today. I was going to do my hair. I brought my hair straightener to the family Christmas thing, and I literally just didn't do it. I just didn't have time. So my hair is like a total mess right now, but usually it's a little cleaner looking, but I also need to get my roots touched up. They're like, but I don't know. I'm a little less cosmetically minded these days because I feel more comfortable. But how do I reduce vocal weight? Ideally, if I want to keep the pitch lower, get really good at hearing it. That's what you want to do first. You want to get it into your listening language. Think about it like this. And this goes for all voice things, by the way, for everyone trying to change their voice. If you tried to speak a new language, when you encounter a vowel that's not in your original language, you're going to be like, what's that sound? How do you do that? And it'll take you a lot of listens before you could actually produce it yourself, right? That's because your perception is an input filter and an output filter. So like if you can't hear the vowel in the new culture you're trying to speak, then there's no chance for you to be able to self-organize your motor actions so that they're matching that qualitative target. So whenever you try to learn something new in voice, you really want to make sure that you hear it. And part of hearing it is, hearing targets and then trying it. But also part of it is like playing with your voice in real time and seeing if you can discern the differences you're after. I like to think of this as a listening language. So a lot of what we try to do in voice learning is expand our listening language to include qualitative values or sounds that are meaningful for us or have a value for us. So in this case, if you're thinking about your vocal weight, then you might want to get a lot better at really hearing it confidently so that then you can, when you're taking actions on your own, you're able to discern what small differences you can make. It doesn't really matter if you can get all the way there at first. It matters if you can make a tiny little influence, but yet you can use your acuity, your ability to see something or hear something, to see that you're moving it, right? And then that allows you to leverage and make even more action about that. So just like, again, if you were to try to learn a language, like the first time I ever heard a French speaker say, e, or whatever, right? It's like, I was like, what the hell is that sound? Like, how do you do that? And it took me like, I don't know, a whole evening of having someone make that sound to me before I it clicked. I was like, okay, I hear it. And then once I heard it, I still couldn't immediately do it, but I could determine that I wasn't doing it. And once I could determine I wasn't doing it, then I could discern this gradient of I'm not doing it, I'm getting closer to doing it, and then it makes it way easier to do, right? Because if you don't have the ability to detect it for yourself, then you can't actually evaluate if you've done it or not. And that's one of the big gaps that people have in voice learning, right? That's why voice learning is not about chains of fact statements or like theory, right? Like, oh, there's these anatomical parts and you've got this and this does this. And that doesn't change your voice for you, because you actually still have to hear it or do it and be able to know when it's happening. And that only comes from actual experience with the thing. Where can I find it? Actually, on my music Discord, I think I have posted the manuscript for it. It's a little messy. I wrote it when I was like in my undergrad, so it's kind of not my prettiest score, but it does exist. It'd be cool if you teach music. That'd be fun. You don't really look like a mess. Well, thank you. That's always good to know. Lost my job and now I've been on unemployment for the last 3 months, and I've been struggling with self-esteem and self-worth, not having the self-esteem to work for myself, and it sucks. Why art such? That's tough. I mean, I'd have to know more about your situation, you know? Like, I'm assuming you're an artist. Have you been feeling like it's been hard to make art? Is that what you're implying? I'm assuming that's the case. Was the job you had prior an art-related job, or was it not? I guess that would be my first question. What's your beauty secret? Stay out of the sun. The sun is a deadly laser that ages you rapidly. I really like your eyebrows. Are you wearing concealer? Is your skin naturally that flawless? Thanks. I haven't had my eyebrows done in a long time, so I mean, I think they're okay. I am wearing concealer under my eyes, on my nose, and right here at the top of my forehead. That's all. And I have a little bit of eye makeup on. I put it on before I went to or Cecilia, if you want to email me at ziaerosemusic@gmail.com, that's my music email, and I can just send you the score if you want to like look at it or whatever. You don't have to make a Discord, but ziaerosemusic@gmail.com. The shock mount. Oh shit, you're so right. It's because this little pink cable, isn't that cute? Oh, it matches my shirt. Yeah, I'll try to stop rocking it. I just can't stop moving. How old are you? Old. Okay, we're coming up on fossilized ages, believe it or not. I'll have to make it. Why are XLR mics so much more preferred over USB mics? It's not that they're like, well, USB mics aren't really like condensers. It's not so much that you need an XLR. The XLR doesn't do anything. It's a certain cable medium. It's more so that XLRs allow you to have phantom powering, and phantom powering is the electrical small voltage that's required to power condenser microphones. And condenser microphones are typically more responsive, they have a wider color range, they're more sensitive. Dynamic mics don't require phantom power, but they're all XLR still, because again, it's just like, that's like the standard mic cable. USB mics aren't like real mics. I mean, they're obviously microphones because they record things, but they're not like, they don't have the same kind of capsule structure as like condensers or whatever. So they're just different levels of quality. Yeah. Steaming is absolutely natural and fine. Oh, no worries. You're good. I got you. Yeah, I mean, I'm either twirling my hair or rocking back and forth or moving in some sense. Why, when I try girl voice, only air comes out and I have to push my voice to come out as well? That's because you're straining, and we don't want you to do that, okay? If you feel like you have to push to get your voice out, that almost always implies that you're doing some kind of hyperphonation, which is just a fancy way of saying you're working too hard. This process is about working less for more, not working more. You don't want to be pushing, and if your voice won't come out, that's an obstruction. What in vocology one might refer to as an air leak, if the air is leaking through. Well, air leak would be if you're making sound and there's a little graininess to the sound, but what you're talking about is like a delayed onset. And in fact, if you have a lot of tension and a lot of strain in your voice, then your delayed onset won't even start, and you'll just get air pressing through compressed vocal folds. So it means you're actually working too hard. You need to do less. In fact, when you try to go higher, it's actually not a process of trying to force your voice higher. You actually really want to be relaxing. Yes, I think I'm about to wrap up my stream as well. I saw someone else had to go too. It's getting that time for me. I'm glad that we did this, but I'll read a couple more things. What's the red keyboard behind you? Is it kind of like the Seaboard Rise Rolly lets you play between notes? Yes, it's a continuum. And you know what? It broke yesterday. My continuum is completely broken. I can't even turn it on. So I'm going to reach out to the maker of them. He's like one guy who like has been building this technology that's totally crazy. And I think he'll fix it for me, but it's really sad because I enjoy playing it and I can't play it right now. But it's a continuous pitch surface. So like you can move your finger across it and you get like a continuum. That's why it's called the continuum. Is it scary as a transgender person in the United States given the current political... Yeah, actually. I wouldn't have thought I'd say that, but yeah, it actually is. I talked about that earlier in the stream, and it's been something that weighs on me fairly heavily, but it definitely is weird. I mentioned this earlier, but it's strange because it doesn't feel like it's natural or organic. Like, there used to be transphobia, you know, in, like, the 90s and the 2000s and 2010, but it wasn't like... It wasn't like transphobia with intention, you know? Now there's like a unique kind of transphobia that's like industrialized and in fact makes people money, and there's like hundreds of millions of dollars getting poured into it and stuff. It feels totally astroturfed. It feels totally targeted. It feels completely unlike the kind of transphobia that existed in the past. And I frankly do find it kind of concerning. I'm not really sure. Like, for example, you know, my passport just expired. And so now I literally cannot get a passport in the United States unless it says mail. But I've already changed all my papers. I've done all the work, you know. It's like, and then if I go to like a different country and they like read my passport, like they're not going to generate me mail. It's not like that ever happens. So it's it just makes me like gross. It makes me sick. And like, I'm pretty sure the passport thing was like a Supreme Court decision, right? Or like was tied up in that. So I don't even think that's going to change for like a long time, maybe. I could be wrong about that one. But I hope it changes. And I would like to I've had 2 passports already that match my birth certificate, female, and match my ID, female, right? And it's like, now I literally just arbitrarily have to have a passport that is like completely unaligned with all my other paperwork. So it's just really frustrating. So if I want to go to a customs agency, I have to like out myself. But it's like not even outing myself, because it's like, if I go to a doctor, for example, and I go to like a health clinic and I'm like, you know, oh, I've got pains or stomach pains or I've got this or that, right? Like, they're always asking me like, are you pregnant? Like, you know, are you on birth control? It's like, you know, it's not like people know I'm trans in real life. It's like they even after I try to explain to a doctor, like, well, no, I can't do that. I can't get pregnant. Like, they're still confused about it, you know? Even after I explicitly try to tell someone I'm trans, they're like, oh, so you're a trans man. Like, where are you at? Are you just getting started? It's like, no, like, I'm, you know? It's, that's the thing that really is frustrating about it, because, you know, like, I understand that those hardliners in the culture war want to be like, oh, well, your chromosomes are your sex or whatever. It's like, okay, sure. I mean, I could see your argument there. Yeah, right? Like, I'm, like, at some level, I was born male, right? Sure. Okay, but, like, practically, that's not what I am in the world. Like, no one is inspecting my chromosomes. Like, it functionally in the world, pragmatically and practically, I am indeed a woman, whether they like that or not, you know? And this idea that's like, you can never become a, it's like, well, I did. I already did, you know? It's not even really a question if I did or not. Like, my lived experience proves that I have done that. And it's just like, they're just on this like they have a completely like philosophical, you know, hardline stance on it that's totally metaphysical, totally, they want to be like, oh, actually you're not anti-scientific, but it's like, you don't even know what you're talking about, you know? It's just it's really weird. It's very, very weird. I think a lot about like, what does a word mean, right? Like, what is a woman, right? That whole like thing that like Matt Walsh like pushed so big, and wow, every maggot tard on the internet loves to own you with the, oh yeah, can you even define a what? It's like, well, I mean, like, if they had any knowledge at all about anything, like, there is no definition for anything that includes everything it needs to include and excludes everything it needs to include. Like, definitions are actually pretty shit, you know? This is like a basic philosophical point. Like, defining things is pretty weak. It's like, it's pretty contextual and conditional, and like, I agree that like the notion woman, like, in a lot of cases means adult human female. Sure, that can make sense. But also, when you're walking around the world, a woman is what you fucking see as a woman, you know? It's really not that complex. And that's where I think, like, there's a total performative, like, barrier about it. It's so stupid. And the ability to have a meaningful conversation about it on any side has totally degraded. The conversation, the signal to noise ratio in a meaningful conversation about gender and sex topics, totally degraded. There's no more meaningful conversations about it almost anywhere. And you basically can't have a meaningful conversation about it because everyone is so entrenched in whatever their like hardline stances. And it's like, well, okay, let's be a little reasonable about this, you know? But no, they don't know. So I find it to be incredibly stupid, incredibly frustrating. And it's like, again, what is a woman? What is a chair, right? Again, that's like a philosophy 101 topic. Like, right? And when you even invoke the other thing, it's like, well, a pragmatic philosopher like Charles Sanders Peirce would say, a woman is that which, as the perceptual object, has those characteristics functionally that you would interact with in that way. And it's like, well, okay, that necessarily is, I fit that. But then it's like, yeah, I don't know. So I'll quit thinking about it. But, you know, I've thought about making videos on these topics or thinking about them because I just feel like the conversation has literally, it's like a smoldering crater of shit on the ground. And there's literally no more productivity there anymore. And it seems like it's actually a very interesting topic. Like, I think there's a lot of interesting points to be made in different directions about it, and a lot that we can learn about the human experience from it. But hey, people are just trying to dunk and score points most of the time. So, you know, there's my little spiel about that. Okay. So yeah, let me refresh this here real quick. Oh, before you wrap up, are you okay with saying why you haven't been uploading to the channel? I actually talked about it earlier. I intend to, but like there was just several layers to it. So if you want to hear that, probably not going to repeat it now, but okay, I'll say a couple things. Last June, I had a very serious injury, and it stopped my ability to sit on a computer and edit and do even piano, and that kind of shattered my mental because it felt like all the things I really loved got taken away from me physically. And I've been in physical therapy for over a year now, actually almost exactly a year, to be honest. And it's made an incredible impact, and I'm pretty much healthy now. I still have some minor spinal issues here and there. I was on the floor working on something, and I like craned over and like pinched a nerve, and I don't know. I'm gonna actually get some imagery done just to see how everything's going there. But something with my CT junction back here got all wonky, and for the last year or so, I've had really bad, or actually about a year and a half, I've had really bad pains. But now they're going away, which is great. So again, it's giving me more ability to like re-engage with all the things I loved before. The other thing, I think it's been about 500 days since I made a YouTube video on this channel particularly. And part of it had a lot to do with like the longer the silence went on. So like the less that I released things, the more it felt like a pressure of like, okay, the next thing I release has to make up for all that time that I haven't done things, right? And that just becomes a Herculean task where it's too big, and it's like, for one person, I can't possibly satisfy that silence on my own end. So I'm trying to, this is a first step actually. I didn't do a Christmas stream last year, and that weighed on me pretty heavily because I was actually injured, and I was trying to bite the bullet on it. Or I guess I was trying to hide the fact, not bite the bullet. And so yeah, I didn't really want to show any weakness. I didn't really tell anyone I was injured. I didn't tell anyone what I was going through. I kind of felt like I couldn't really accept it myself, and it took me a long time to even be able to accept it myself. But I'm still very interested in this topic. I still teach, you know. I took a couple months off from teaching when I was injured, and I'm starting to teach a lot more again. I have a group class going on right now that's been probably the best group class we've ever done, actually. I feel like the pacing of the material is so much better than it used to be. I feel like the connection in it is a lot better than, I don't know, it's just things are moving in a good direction there. And yeah, I'm finding passion again about making videos and thinking about these topics. So I do intend to make more stuff, but I don't want to promise it until it's done, you know, because I've done that before. I'm like, okay, now I'm back, I'm gonna make things, and then like I crash out or whatever. But yeah, it's been a difficult year, but it feels like I'm continuing to trend upwards. So that's why, a combination of those things. And I hope you can forgive me. I feel like there's this weird shame I have about it in some sense, where it's like I can't forgive myself for not moving at the right pace that I was before. And it's been really hard. Like, if I could just forgive myself, then I would be able to get back to all my normal stuff, you know? And I've been trying that. So this is a little bit of that today. Trying to at least, I'm not doing a 7-hour Christmas stream. We're coming up on 2 hours, which is longer than I thought it would be. So, you know, I'm going to feel pretty good about that. And I'm trying to reorient myself to this platform. It feels like this platform got out of scale and out of scope. Like it became almost bigger than me as a human being, right? And then it became very difficult to wrestle with the algorithm demands and I want to make sure everything is better than the last thing, but also I'm learning, you know, like look at the progression of this channel. Like I'm still learning. I don't think how I used to think. I'm growing and changing every day. When you make a video, it's a static resource that sits permanently. And there's something intimidating about that. For a long time, for like 2 years, 3 years, when my content slowed down, it was because I felt like I wanted to like perfect my model or perfect the thing so that then I could make the definitive, concluded, final version of this thing, right? And it's like, it never came because I've continued to grow and I continue to change and I continue to learn. And it's like, oh, I'll quit making the microphone sound. I just heard it on my end. And so, all of those factors made this process of doing this channel be really terrifying, overwhelming, super bad anxiety about all of it. And then couple that with like the like maliciousness towards trans people spiking over the last couple of years. And this channel is like a place where I guess I'm out as a trans person. It's like the only place in my life I'm out, right? Like, when I'm in public, I'm not out. When I'm making friends, I'm not out. When I'm hopefully posting my music, I mean, I'm sure my music audience knows I'm trans, but like, it's not like it's a thing with what I do, you know? It's like separate from that. And this is the one platform where it's like, actually, look at me. I am trans and I can speak about it openly and I don't feel like I have to hide. And it kind of felt like, actually, it's the smart thing to hide. Right? For the last like 2 years, it's felt like actually I do want to hide as a trans person right now. And all of those factors kind of bubbled together. And that's why I haven't made a lot of content. It feels really good to say that out loud, actually. Like it's very cathartic. So yeah. That's pretty cool actually to say it. Like I've almost been ashamed to say that, you know? Like, okay, I did actually fall short of what I hoped I would be able to do. But it's okay. I'm learning to be more human. Like getting injured humbled me because I quite literally felt like invincible for a long time. Like I was just always one after the next thing, hitting all the beats in my life, you know, going to the next with no problem. And I was just always feeling like I'm on the right track. And getting injured was like the first time I felt like I wasn't on the right track anymore. And that started all the way back in 2020. In October of July when I got sick with celiac disease and didn't know it. I also mentioned this before. That's really where like if you look at my content, that's where the pacing changes because I was like feeling invincible and then I got some mystery illness that I was sick with for 9 months and literally felt awful for like, I literally thought I was dying for 9 months. And then I got cured. By cured, I mean I just stopped consuming gluten and I couldn't ever quite get back to the same kind of work focus because like my body just I wasn't there. And then once I finally did get back to that, I moved to Los Angeles. That was overwhelming for me, a huge change in my life. And then I got injured and it feels like but now I prioritize my physical health. I exercise every day. I'm eating healthy. I'm sleeping good. I used to sleep like shit. At the peak of like when I was making a lot of content on this channel in like the early 2020 when COVID was happening, I was working like 17 to 18 hour days. Genuinely. Like a lot of people can't understand that and can't like believe that. But like I genuinely was working 17 to 18 hours like daily. And I think that's why I got sick and why my autoimmune, celiac thing activated, because I just wasn't sleeping. I was eating like shit. The COVID shut my gyms down. I used to be very physically active. I was like lifting every like 3 times a week, 4 times a week. And it was just like a perfect storm of like being overwhelmed. And then I got sick. Then I got burnt out. And I feel like I've like created enough space from all this stuff that now I'm actually eager to do it again. Like I'm chomping at the bit to like get back to the things that I was doing before. And that's a feeling that's like slowly been sparking and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's like really, for me, it's really exciting, because for a long time, that inner drive to like express myself, that inner drive to push myself and make things kind of felt like dead. Like it was just a void. And now it doesn't really feel like that. Like I actually feel these little impulses. Like I have an idea for a video. I'm actually working on a TransVoiceLessons video right now, like a cool one that I'm super stoked about. And I became inspired to make it once I was digging into Hillenbrand's Val data, the 1995 Val data on sex. They have children, male and female. I wish they would have separated boys and girls in the children group, because then it would be even more useful data. But it was such an interesting data set, and it reflected the scaling idea that I've been talking about and teaching for many, many years. And it might be empirically the best representation of that. So, and then when I was looking at Voce Vista, I updated it recently for this group class, and Voce Vista had the Hillenbrand data plotted on the Val matrix. And I was like, holy shit, you can literally just see the uniform scaling, which the argument isn't that uniform scaling is what there is, but rather uniform scaling is important to know. And then if you scale by greater than uniform, let's say there's a certain function, we could write that if it's above 1, that means R1 is dominating the scaling. And if it's below 1, then R2 is dominating the scaling. If it's exactly at 1, you get uniform scaling across some val as it moves across sexed lines. Hillenbrand's data almost is exactly that. And I was like, holy shit, this is super cool. So I want to make a video looking at lots of different languages and their format data for different sexes, and then contextualizing that in TransVoice with like the resonance curves that we want to learn and how to learn that better and so on. So I'm really excited about that. It's been on my mind lately, and I've been working on it. So, and I've been making a lot of different documents for my educational group classes, and I've been updating my resources and stuff now that I've got more focus and more energy about it and stuff. And yeah, so that's where that's been at. It's terrifying seeing these things being stuck in the deep south. Starting HRT injections is such in about 2 weeks. DIY given how things are, but I imagine I'll make it. I'm still excited to break free. You'll do great. Don't worry about it. I mean, it's easier said than done because I'm worrying about it, right? But don't let it stop you, and just do what you can and try to live a good life. I think non-hostile, philosophical, rooted conversations about trans identity will be riveting. I think so too, but for many years I actually wanted to do that, but I literally felt like even in the trans community, I wasn't open to speak my mind. You know what I mean? That's the kind of irony about it. It's like, I'm not like, an anti-woker. I'd consider myself dark woke, let's say. But I actually did agree that there was a chilling effect about the ability to speak frankly about trans topics in trans circles from 2018 to 2023. It actually felt like I couldn't actually speak my mind about trans issues for fear of offending someone, or it not being the right word choice in this context, or it not being the right inclusive language or something. And that's kind of weird, actually, because as a trans person, and I would consider myself now a bit of an elder in the trans community, it always felt like my voice could add an important, my voice could be an important contribution to that discussion, but I never felt comfortable talking about those things because I just didn't want to piss people off, I guess. I don't know. But I'm sort of, I can't really control what people think of me anymore. And I think I'm moving on from trying to be loved by everybody, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think it would be good too. There's a shortage of it, to have really honest conversations about the topic. I think you're overlooking how much we all love you and miss you and respect you. That means a lot. Thank you. I mean, I wish it could mean even more, right? Like, as in, like, I don't know who you are. I wish I could know who you are. You know what I mean? And that's what's been weird about YouTube, is like the dynamic. Oh, I'm doing the mic rubbing thing again. That's what's weird about YouTube, is that it's kind of one-sided. Like, I would love to know you so that comment means even more to me. And I'm going to hold on to that comment, and I'll take it with me. And it does mean something, but it's hard because it's like, it's words on my screen, you know? And it really, I feel it right now because I read it and I'm having an honest moment. But that's something that bothered me in the past about YouTube, is that sort of asymmetry in the interaction, you know? Like, I'm just one person here and there's like all these people out there, and it's like, I want to hear everybody's opinion. I want to have a conversation with you, but it's kind of one-sided. I mean, we're having a bit of a conversation here, I think, for sure. And it's quite enjoyable. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it for 2 hours here when I only meant to get on for 30 minutes. But I think if I could get more, if I could, I guess, hold on to those positive comments more, it would make it easier for me to forgive myself, you know? Because I'm the ultimate critic of myself, and I'm the one stewing in my own brain worms all day. That's really cool. When practicing low girl voice, what instrument should I be practicing more? Oh, I'm not sure what you mean by that question. You can practice any instrument. Instruments are great. Low girl voice is quite fun. It's quite an interesting pattern to get to. There's an interesting video from Selena Gomez that I always like to show my students, and like what low-pitched feminine voices often sound like. It's a great model for that. I'm an electronic musician, and you and Wendy Carlos were two of my biggest inspirations early in transition. Well, that's awesome. I am also very inspired by Wendy Carlos. She is the godmother of synthesis to me. So, you know, I mean, she was just amazing. Like, so sharp, so intuitive, so proficient, malleable, and sensitive. A big inspiration to me as well. Not just from her transness, but just musically. In fact, for many years, I loved Wendy Carlos, and I didn't even know she was trans. It wasn't until after I transitioned did I learn that Wendy Carlos was trans. So that was quite a moment for me. I was like, no way. That's like the only musician that I knew, you know, in the past, other than maybe like that one Laura Jane Grace from Against Me. But I was never really into that band. I just remember when I was in in 2006, I was in some doctor's office, and they had a magazine for alternative music, and like Laura Green Jace had just came out or something, and I was like, what's this? That's strange, you know? I didn't really know what that was all about, but she was like the only other musician that I had like heard of, I guess, before. I'm actually kind of having an interesting time translating 10 years of sax into voice techniques to work through. That's, yeah, I mean, I swear by that. I mean, basically all of the general dimensions that voice has, you can pretty much get on an instrument. The only thing you can't get is obviously the complexity of the vowel filter, or like the vocal tract structures. But I mean, even then, right, you know, like different omniture shapes, you can get different like resonances on the saxophone in some sense. Piano definitely can't. There's no changing the resonance on the piano, unfortunately. I do teach music lessons, yes. And I'll be dropping my rates on everything soon, just because I'm just kind of, I don't know. I don't like paywalling people like that anymore. I think for a while I did that because I felt like afraid, but now I feel like safe. So it feels like I just want to work with more people. So that's something to look forward to, I guess. I've always been the most expensive in this field, you know, and I probably still will remain that, but I really want to work with people who wouldn't have had an opportunity to work with me before, you know? So that's kind of what's been on my mind a lot lately. I've even thought about giving free voice lessons again. I haven't done that in years because there's always been a line out the door, but I mean, we did scholarship programs, and every time I did those scholarship programs, it was super meaningful and really important. And it feels like I kind of want to bring my skills to people who need it most, but maybe don't have access. So I've been thinking about that. But yeah, music lessons. For sure. If you want music lessons, email me at ziaerosemusic@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you. ziaerosemusic@gmail.com. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to start doing, Solios. I also had this idea. What do you think about this? I had the idea of actually offering some free voice lessons for people who want to do a lesson on stream. What do you think about that? I thought that's cool, right? Like, because then I can almost like turn it into content too, right? Like, not to like pimp out the voice stuff into content, but like, I think it would be really educational content, almost more useful than like a static video where I'm like preparing like, you know, a lecture that I'm delivering to the audience, but rather like there's a real human being and you get to see how real voice learning works. And I think that would be really, really cool. Love in the Void album. Let's fucking go. I love Hammock. I used to lay in bed and listen to Hammock and just like I don't keep up with all that stuff, but that makes sense. I mean, I've had that idea for many years, but Love in the Void is like one of my favorite things of all time. Do you know anything similar? Yeah, Hammock, Godspeed You Black Emperor. What are some other? Explosions in the Sky. All of those are like alternative, ambient kind of rock groups. But I still think like Hammock is like cream of the crop when it comes to that shit. It's so good. All right, everyone. I think that's all for me for now. It's getting late and I do need to eat and then prepare for bed. So thank you all very much for being here. This was a lovely little Christmas stream to get in the end of the day. Yeah, thanks. Maybe you'll see me around more. Maybe you won't. Can't promise it, but hopefully you will. I'll do my best because that's basically all I can do. So, yeah, take care. Be well. Thank you, and have a beautiful rest of your evening, and I will see you some other time. Farewell. Bye. Cheers.